What's up, everybody? Who are the favorites to win in the SEC this season? Who could surprise us? The great Phil Steele will join us next, right here on Locked On SEC.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. On today's show, the godfather of college football, the great Phil Steele, joins us for his annual visit. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers for joining us. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down throughout the sports world. Check out FanDuel. They've got something for all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. Something for everyone all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we love doing this. One of our annual visits every year. It's become a yearly tradition. We love talking with our buddy Phil Steele. The Phil Steele 2024 college football preview is out now. You can find it at philsteele.com. You can get the hard copy, you can get the digital version. It is the best bang for your buck when it comes to getting all the information you need for the start of the college football season and throughout. And he joins us now. Phil Steele, welcome in, sir. How are you?
You know, I am doing great, Chris. How about yourself today?
Hey, Phil, it's always good to talk with you, man, because we know we're getting ever so closer to the start of a football season. We were just at SEC Media Days, so we know we're really getting close when we talk to you. But before we dive into the football talk, I always love to talk with you about this. Remind our listeners how much time you spend putting into this thing every offseason.
No, we pour a full 7 months, and this is myself and the entire staff. We start at the Sunday after Thanksgiving when some team season is complete. Do the first read through every article is written about the team during the course of the year. All the ebbs, all the flows of each position of the team for the year. And then the second write-through process is the start of spring when we get the updated rosters, the freshmen have signed, the transfer portal moves, have to readjust it all. The third one's after I talk to the head coaches, and this year I talked to over 124 of the 134 head coaches, and usually the calls take about an hour apiece, going over every player on the team, getting their position analysis, getting all the players in the right order, and then we finally send it to the press. But it's a full 7 months. I tell you what, the transfer portal made it even tougher with all the moves that go on.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been my head spins trying to keep up with it every day. I couldn't imagine you trying to put something in print that changes day by day, but thus where we are now. But I guarantee everybody out there, the best bang for your buck, $20, all the content you could ever want when it comes to college football info, rosters, returning starters, and much more. I'm old school. I collect the hard copies, so I still got to get mine. But or I've got one in my hands right now, but I always buy the hard copy every year. Phil, let's dive into it. Let's start with the team that many consider the favorite in the SEC, the Georgia Bulldogs. Where are you with Kirby Smart's crew heading into 2024?
Yeah, I think their biggest advantage this year, Chris, is their depth. And I did pick them number one in the country overall, number one in the SEC. And part of the reason is the depth. I think as you move to the now 12-team playoff, you're going to be playing 14, 15, 16 games. And when you look at Georgia's roster, you get to the third string in almost every position, and you've got a guy that would start for a lot of other teams. They've got a veteran quarterback in Carson Beck. They got my number one rated offensive line in the country. Defensively, they got my number 7 D-line, number 3 linebackers, number 3 DBs. So they've got one of the best defenses, and they're complete. They're my number 3 special teams as well. Now, they do play 3 top 10 teams on the road this year: Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. Chances are they're going to drop one of those 3. However, they get to the SEC title game. It's in Atlanta. I see them winning that. And then once they get to the playoff, I think that's where their depth takes over. So I've got them winning it all.
Yeah, Kirby Smart, 42-2 in his last 3 seasons. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
what they have been able to do there. Losses not coming very often. We interviewed Michael Williams at SEC Media Days, and he was like, "Yeah, it was weird losing my first game ever." And I was like, "God, that just feels weird to say." But I mean, that's where expectations are in Athens right now. Another team that's in your top 4, a new team to the SEC, is Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. What do you like about the crew from Austin?
Yeah, you know, the thing with Texas, they've got the best quarterback room in the country with Quinn Ewers backed by Arch Manning, so you'll love that. They've got my number 2 rated offensive line in the country. It's a veteran unit. Their goal is to win the Joe Moore Award this year. The linebackers and DBs are solid. And like Georgia, they're solid on special teams. They actually have my number 2 rated special teams in the country with kicker Brett Auburn and then true freshman Michael Kern coming in as the punter. I really like their special teams unit. And then look at their schedule this year. Unlike Georgia, which is playing 3 top 10 teams on the road in SEC play, Texas avoids most of the big boys. They play Georgia and Oklahoma, but they get Georgia at home. Oklahoma's at a neutral site. In fact, they only have 3 true SEC road games. One of them's at Vanderbilt, one's at Arkansas, and one's at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M. So I think when you look at Texas this year, they've got an excellent shot at getting to the SEC title game, which I have them doing. And you know what? Here's something interesting, Chris. What if Texas played Georgia in the regular season, played them again in the SEC title game, and played them again in the playoffs? We've never had 2 teams play each other 3 times in a single season.
Yeah, one of those people will be screaming bloody murder, whether it's Steve Sarkisian or Kirby Smart. Somebody's getting the best of the other one in that matchup, but that would certainly be interesting. The other teams you've got very high on your list, look, Nick Saban may be retired, but the expectation's still high in Tuscaloosa. Alabama lost a lot to the portal, but, man, some important pieces back, and one of them, namely their quarterback, Jalen Milroe. It's crazy, Phil. This is the one team that everybody's kind of all over the map on because you don't know what life post-Saban is going to be with Kalen DeBoer, but looks like you're still pretty high on Alabama.
And this is one of those, Chris, where I talked about writing the magazine in 3 different phases. I got to be honest, when I did the second right through of the magazine, and they lost all those players to the portal after Nick Saban stepped down, I was like, okay, Bama might be in for like a 9-3 season this year. However, after going over the team with Coach DeBoer and seeing the players that he brought in Damani Jackson from USC at corner, Keon Saab from Michigan at free safety, Parker Brailsford. Remember they had those snap problems last year?
Yep. Brings
in the center from the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line. You got to like that. And by the way, the Lou Groza Award winner at kicker to go along with Jalen Milroe. And, I went over the team with Coach DeBoer last year with Washington, player for player, and this year's team, Alabama, player for player. And I actually think he's got more talent this year at Alabama than he had last year at Washington. And somehow he got Washington all the way to the national title game last year. So I'm not discounting the fact that Kalen DeBoer's got himself a national title contender.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though. I mean, last time they went to Baton Rouge and to Tennessee, they lost, and that was with Nick Saban, and now they're going to go back to those hostile environments. I keep telling people, stick with DeBoer. He may be a really good coach. He may just lose some tough games this year, which happens to good teams and good coaches all the time. So we will see on that. We're talking with the great Phil Steele, of course. His college football preview is out now. Find it at philsteele.com. Let's touch on some of the other SEC teams in your top 25 list. And this is one that, Phil, I look at and go, schedule very kind to the Ole Miss Rebels. What do you make of Lane Kiffin's group?
Yeah, great runway to the season, huh? Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina. They should be 6-0 when they travel to face LSU on the road. And here's the thing with Ole Miss. They've been hitting the portal hard, right? But this year they've actually got an experienced team and add in the portal players. They come in number 13 on my experience chart. They got Jackson Dart back. They've got a bunch of running backs. The receiving core looks good, and the defense should be much improved this year. Love the addition of Walter Nolan up front on the defensive line coming in from Texas A&M. The schedule sets up well, and this is a team that, if Lane Kiffin's going to make the playoff, it should be this year.
Yeah, it's interesting too, Phil. You talk about the transfers coming in, experienced transfers, but a lot of guys from other SEC teams. How much do you think that helps with guys who have SEC experience playing for some big-time teams coming to play for Ole Miss?
Yeah, it's a big plus. And, Chris Paul coming in from Arkansas, for example, Trey Amos from Alabama, and then Princely coming in at the jack linebacker spot from Florida. Those are all big-time additions to go along with Nolan. I think it is big.
Yeah, Monmi Ellen, I think is the pronunciation, but all these
Thank you.
Yeah,
they're
all going to get me. If I can't nail Nico Iamaleava, we'll talk Tennessee in a minute. But no, it's a lot of fun. More with Phil Steele in just a second, but want to remind you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. They have got action going on all summer long, whether it's Major League Baseball or some of these early Week 1 bets getting ready for the start of the college football season. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. All you got to do is head to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. Again, Major League Baseball, they are the official sports betting partner of MLB. It is FanDuel. They've got all the baseball bets, but again, all those week one action games. I've been talking about it all offseason. If you like LSU as the favorite against USC, or you think, hey, Trojans and Lincoln Riley might have the number on LSU, you can bet on them. You can bet on some of these underdogs, or if you think some of the big heavy favorites like Oklahoma to cover against Temple week one, Texas to cover against Colorado State, whatever it is, they got all the lines up there already for you at FanDuel.com. Again, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Plenty of college football action throughout the season for you to get in on. It is FanDuel.com, and they're taking care of you all summer long at FanDuel. Phil, let's talk about LSU, because this is very interesting. I know you've got them in your top 20. Brian Kelly in year 3 in Baton Rouge. When we talk about the track record, the last 3 guys who did this at LSU, Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Ogeron, by year 3 or 4, every one of those guys won a championship at LSU. So I don't want to turn the heat up too much on Brian Kelly here, but the expectations in Baton Rouge are, hey, by year 3 or 4, we're playing for a title.
Yeah, and this team is truly a wild card in my mind, Chris, because, they're going to be a different team than last year. Last year, their offense scored a lot, and they had a quarterback that ran and threw, and they put up 45 points per game last year. Their defense struggled. Gave up 417 yards per game, 28 points per game. However, the offense scored so fast they were facing a lot of plays. Well, this year, different team. I think they run the football with their running backs more. In fact, last year their running backs had just 280 carries. This year I think that goes up by about 100 to 380 carries. Their quarterback will run less. I think the defense will be on the field less and be improved. They look at the defense, I look for them to improve by about 7 points per game. However, the last time they lost a Heisman Trophy winner was 2019, where they averaged 48 points per game. The next year, they dropped down to 32, a drop of 16 points per game. This year, they had come off averaging 46 points per game. I look for a drop-off, and maybe not as dramatic, but a drop-off nonetheless. So a different type of team, and they have a lot of toss-up games this year, Chris. USC in Vegas. At South Carolina, toss-up game. Mississippi at home, toss-up game. At A&M, Alabama, at Florida in the Swamp in Oklahoma. Those are all toss-up games in my mind. Now, if they win all the toss-up games, you're talking about a team that's going to contend for the SEC title, but lose half of them, and it could be a completely different year. They're a big-time wild card.
Yeah, I just don't know, if you're Brian Kelly, why you would schedule USC and UCLA on the schedule, 2 now Big Ten teams on a season where you're playing Bama, you're playing, Oklahoma, you're playing some tough teams, and it's like, man, take the Lane Kiffin route, go schedule Wake Forest and some of those teams, but we'll see, and it's going to be fascinating to see with the playoff too. If how much do good losses help you? Kind of almost like the NCAA tournament. Hey, good resume, better than some of the bad non-conference teams other teams beat. So that'll be fascinating to see when we get to the end of the season.
And Chris, I think that you're going to see a 3-loss SEC team in the playoff this year.
Wow. That would be fascinating. I keep wondering what happens if we have 3 or 4 10-2 teams. Do they all get in? On top of the conference champion, they get the automatic bid. That will be fascinating. Another one, you mentioned LSU is a wild card, and this team is really a wild card to me. It's the Oklahoma Sooners. It feels like everybody is jumping on Texas and saying they can compete in the SEC, and everybody's kind of dismissing Oklahoma, but this is a team that won 10 games a year ago. They got Jackson Arnold, the 5-star quarterback, has got his feet wet starting the bowl game in the Cheez-It Bowl. It was a mixed bag, but is it crazy to say this team can go as far as Jackson Arnold takes them? Because, man, they got a lot of talent all over the roster.
Yeah, and this one's interesting, Chris, because I actually have Oklahoma number 7 in my power poll. Now, the power poll, I take my 9 sets of power ratings, add them all together, and come up with the overall talent on the team. And Oklahoma comes up the 7th most talented team in the country. So you're probably asking, why wouldn't I have them as high as Texas? I've got Texas number 4. The difference is schedule. Whereas Texas faces one of the easiest schedules in the SEC with just 3 SEC road games and playing Vanderbilt in one of them, Arkansas in the other. Look at Oklahoma's schedule this year. It's ridiculous. First of all, they only have 3 SEC home games because Texas is at a neutral site. One of the home games is Alabama. Another one is Tennessee. Now let's look at their games away from home. Auburn, which Jordan-Hare is one of the toughest venues to play in. Texas, At Ole Miss, a top 10 team. At Missouri, a team that could very well be in the top 10. At LSU. That is a brutal SEC schedule. They play the toughest schedule of any team in the SEC, and that's why I only have them rated number 20. But they've got the defense. Brett Venables, his first year, he runs somewhat of a complex defense. They gave up 461 yards per game, improved that to 390 last year. I think this year they improved that by a ton. They're loaded defensively. I do think Jackson Arnold's going to look better than he looked in the bowl game. The offensive line is probably my biggest question mark, but they've got an offensive line coach in Bill Bedenbaugh, who's one of the best. And when I talked to Venables, he said they brought in experienced veterans, and he feels great about the offensive line. He feels they're ambitious, intelligent, driven, tough. And if the offensive line comes along and they can win some of these tough games, then they are a clear threat.
Yeah, it's just fascinating because remember when Missouri and A&M came into the SEC, everybody thought, oh, there might be some struggle there, and Missouri won the East a couple of times. Manziel Mania happened at A&M, and they were winning 9+ games, and so it's kind of funny. Everybody's wondering, well, is there going to be a tough transition for Texas and Oklahoma? But man, both teams are loaded with talent. It looks like there won't be much of a tough transitional phase, but we shall see. Another team that kind of, we'll talk about Jackson Arnold. How far can he take them? How far can Nico Iamaleava take Tennessee? Again, we know Josh Heupel, great offensive mind. Maybe underachieved a little bit last year with Joe Milton at quarterback, but Nico's got all the skills and all the traits, and I think it's how quickly does he mature because Tennessee's loaded at wide receiver. The defense should be better. I kind of like this Vols team. They're a little sneaky.
Yeah, I think when you look at them offensively, they're going to be potent. I mean, as you mentioned, they've got Nico a quarterback. They do lose 2 of their top 3 running backs, but Sampson is back this year. The receiving core is very dangerous, and the offensive line should be one of the better units in the country. And the defensive line, one of the top units in the country as well. I rate their defensive line number 8. My biggest question mark when it comes to Tennessee is the defensive back 7. They lose every single guy from the linebacker and DBs, and they lost a lot of DBs, so they're not that experienced back there. Now, granted, they hit the portal. We'll see what the portal additions do, but losing the back 7 on defense, probably my biggest concern with them. But then again, when you look at the schedule this year, I've got them an underdog at Oklahoma, a slight underdog against Bama, and an underdog at Georgia. Other than that, I've got them favored in their games, so they could be a dangerous team in the SEC.
It is summertime, which means it is barbecue season. Stock up on all your grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can get both. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns anywhere from $250 to $256 per year. That could earn or cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Go take advantage now. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, include your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It is time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering listeners $5 for just trying them by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Again, go to the app store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use our code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege and get started today using Ibotta. This message also brought to you by our friends over at Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time throughout the summer, thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you're always going to have enough time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart your new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this May, or this summer rather, with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options and enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage your calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Use our code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. It is Factor Meals. Go check them out today. Continue our conversation with the great Phil Steele. Of course, his college football preview guide is out. It is up at philsteele.com. 350-plus pages of all the information you need getting you ready for the college football season. Not just getting you ready. I mean, this is my resource, Phil. I go to this throughout the season and go back and look up who is that guy? What did Phil have them projected to do? And man, more often than not, you are so right when it comes to the analysis and breakdown of these teams. We're talking a lot about the SEC, talking about a lot of the favorites. Let's talk about some wild card teams and teams really don't know what, we're going to get out of them. What do you make of Mike Elko and Texas A&M? We know how good he was as a head coach at Duke, but coming over to Aggie land where they're paying a ton for Jimbo Fisher to go away, what do you make of the Aggies in 2024?
Yeah, I thought what Mike Elko did at Duke was amazing because I went over the roster with him that first year, and I picked him last in the ACC, and he goes and finishes 9-4, and the second year 8-5, and they probably would have been better than that had Riley Leonard stayed healthy. He is an amazing defensive coordinator, and here's something. In my conversation with Coach Elko after spring practice was over, he said this has a chance to be the best defense I've coached. Now, just 3 years ago, he was the defense coordinator at Texas A&M, and they allowed 15.9 points per game. This might be the best defensive coach. They're led by that defensive line, one of the best in the country, and they added Nick Scorton from Purdue, who had 10 sacks last year. If they keep Connor Wegman healthy, they're in great shape. Now, he said the offensive line won't be one of the best in the SEC, but it's going to be much better than last year, and if that's the case and they keep Wegman upright, they're a dangerous team. They do have to play Florida in the Swamp, South Carolina on the road, Texas at home, but they've got the schedule and the talent to surprise, much like Elko did at Duke, I felt in both seasons.
Yeah, I've got Nick Scorton pinned as a top 5 edge rusher in the SEC this year. I just think he is, even in the spring game, we saw a glimpse of what he could be, and I'm ready to see him blow up some O-lines here in the SEC. Another team that's kind of a wild card to me, Phil, the Kentucky Wildcats. I know my buddies who cover Georgia told me how much they loved Brock Vandegrift there. He comes over, obviously a seasoned offensive line. I think Eli Cox is back for like his 6th year. Marcus Cox coming over through the portal last year. They got some really good pieces on that offensive line, and I know a couple defensive players back as well in Deion Walker. So what do you make of the Kentucky Wildcats? I know the schedule's tough, but, man, Mark Stoops, now the longest tenured coach in the SEC with Nick Saban gone.
Yeah, that is quite a title to have. And, look at them up front defensively. That front seven looks nasty with Deion Walker, J.J. Weaver. They add in from Georgia, Dumas Johnson, which you got to like, Derek Jackson, a linebacker. This is a loaded and dangerous front seven. As you mentioned, the offensive line, I rate number 17 in the country. I guess your question marks would be, well, how will Vandegrift do in his first year as a starter? And then maybe a little bit of running back as well. They lose Ray Davis, 1,000-yard rusher. I like Chip Trainum, but let's see how he does. It's his first year as a feature back there. We'll see if he can do it, but the receiving core is solid. And I think they'll be an underdog this year when they play Georgia at home, at Ole Miss, at Florida, at Tennessee, and at Texas. Other than that, the rest of the games are winnable. Of course, the non-conference schedule is light as always. So I think another bowl game for Kentucky. Don't know if they can get to the upper echelon of the SEC, though.
Some teams that it's a big year for them. And looking at your rankings, it looks to me like maybe you're not high on Auburn. I know Hugh Freeze, this is a big year for him. He's taken back over play calling duties and, saying, hey, we're going to make this work with Peyton Thorne at quarterback. But where are you in this Auburn team? Because, man, they kind of underachieved last year. They were right on the doorstep of beating Alabama. They just couldn't get it done. But expectations high in year 2 for Hugh Freeze and Auburn.
Yeah, Georgia as well. So, Georgia and Alabama, they take to the wire, and then they lose some games that they were a favorite in, like New Mexico State, but should have beaten Alabama. I actually like Auburn, but Chris, I got to tell you, picking a 16-team conference like the SEC, you got to put somebody down there like 11th, and people are going to get on you for that. But look at the teams above them, for crying out loud. But let's take a look at this Auburn team. First of all, Peyton Thorne came in last year and was thrown to a below-average receiving corps, and now they bring in the Freeze 4 at receiver, including Cam Coleman. They bring in Robert Lewis from Georgia State. They bring in Keandre Landry-Smith from Penn State. And how about Sam Jackson, an intriguing talent? He was a quarterback at Cal. He's going to be working in a wide receiver here. That's going to be fun to watch. That's a vastly upgraded receiver room. So I think Peyton Thorne has a much better year. The offense looks good. The defense has a lot of talent. They're a more experienced team than they were last year. And the schedule's not easy. No SEC schedule really is, except maybe Missouri. But when you look at Auburn this year, they did make my most improved list, and yet I rank them down there at 11th.
One more for you, Phil, here. Just teams where maybe expectations are a little bit lower, but I like Billy Napier's roster. When I look at the team, I like a lot of the pieces. I like Graham Mertz. I love DJ Lagway coming in. But, man, schedule is absolutely brutal. Any chance Napier can weather this storm?
Yeah, I actually think Florida gets to 7 or 8 wins this year, believe it or not. They're extremely tough in the swamp, and they get Miami in the swamp, A&M in the swamp, UCF, Kentucky, LSU, and Ole Miss, all in the swamp. They take care of business there. They do have to play Florida State on the road, Texas on the road, Georgia at a neutral site, and at Tennessee. That would be like 4 losses, but I think the swamp's going to be the key. And I'll say this. When I talked to Coach Napier last year, I said, Graham Mertz, first of all, he's not a mobile quarterback. I think a mobile quarterback fits your system best. And I wasn't overwhelmed with him at Wisconsin. He's like, Phil, this guy's a hard worker. He's extremely intelligent. I think he's going to have a good season. And talked me into it, and I listened. And then they hit 73%, the best completion percentage in the SEC, 20 touchdown passes, just 3 interceptions. So I listen when Coach Napier talks. I mean, he is accurate, and he tells me the right things. This year when I told him, I go, you play the toughest schedule in the country. He goes, yes, it is, but I think at the end of the year, when you look at Florida and you look at the schedule, you're going to say it wasn't as tough as it looked. And so I think taking care of business in the swamp is going to be the key, and I think they do that. It's a very talented Florida team, and I like the addition of Lagway at quarterback, giving them that, a running option potentially to be used during the games, and they've got talent throughout the lineup and a much improved defense.
Yeah, and be careful what you wish for there, Florida fans. If you move on from Napier, you might lose Lagway, and you lose some of these big-time recruits, so always repercussions.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out there with Coach Napier is he was dealing with Mullen recruits, which weren't great recruiting classes. He's brought in 2 really good recruiting classes. His first 2 years, he's had extremely inexperienced teams. They were number 109 on my experience chart last year. They're up to number 52 this year. So they're for the first time, he's got an experienced team with most of his recruits.
Last one for you, Phil, and we'll get you out of here, and we appreciate your time so much. We talked mostly about the SEC. It looks like, kind of looking at your preseason top 40, some of the teams high up here, you've got Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame. Are these all teams you kind of expect to be in that playoff picture throughout the year?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think when you look at the playoffs this year, Chris, you're going to get one ACC team, one Big 12 team. You're going to get Notre Dame. You're going to get the Group of 5. Then I think you get 4 or 5 SEC teams and 3 or 4 Big 10 teams getting in there. They are by far the 2 toughest conferences in college football.
Well, Greg Sankey would certainly love that. Phil, remind all our listeners where they can find the stuff. PhilSteele.com, the best place to send them?
Yeah, Chris, the only brick-and-mortar stores to get it at this year are Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, both fine locations. And if you have one in your area, make sure you stop by and get it today. 352 pages, like it, 134 media guides rolled into one. That's Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, or you can go to PhilSteele.com. And when you go to PhilSteele.com, I'm going to charge you a shipping charge. I mean, it costs me to ship these things, but I give you the digital magazine for free, and the digital magazine is actually updated all the way through the start of the season with any coaching changes or injuries. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or PhilSteele.com.
Well, I love the hard copy, but the digital copy, so good to have that information throughout the season because, you like to get in on the action. Phil has got you covered where you need to know. Phil, thanks for the time, man. Always appreciate it, and we'll do it in 365 more days, okay?
Sounds fun, Chris. Thanks for having me on once again. Always great talking football with you.
All right, thanks so much. That is the great Phil Steele, and always appreciate him taking some time. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. And hey, he told you he's behind the Florida Gators, so check out our buddy Brandon Olson, host of Locked On Gators. Make that your second listen today. Again, up there at Locked On Gators, wherever you find your podcast. Brandon does a great job breaking all things down Florida Gators. He does some live shows after the Gators win or lose a game. He's got live reaction on his YouTube page, so check that out, Locked On Gators, wherever you find your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Come on back throughout this week. We'll be breaking it all down, getting you guys ready for the start of another SEC football season.